Good evening and welcome. It's Friday night, and I give a warm welcome that you found me. I'm Bob Pace, and here we are to fight CPS and stop taking our children. This is a live podcast that you found me on Facebook, Fight CPS with Bob Pace. And I'm transmitting on YouTube and using the StreamYard application. This room has 4 ways of interacting. The first way is just by being in this podcast. And I um, welcome you here to listen and take notes. Also, you can subscribe to my podcast by clicking down below, or you can also click the notification if you want to know when I'm on. And so that's great. Also, you can use emojis. You can do smiley faces and thumbs up and hearts. And also you can send me stars. Now, the second way is the second way you can enter the or interact with this live podcast is, let's say you wanted to make a comment or you had a question about CPS. And to do so, all you have to do is type in your comment. Please show me your name and just be your first name, the city or the county you're from, the state, and if you're from outside the U.S., your city and country. Yes, outside the U.S. There are various entities out there that have texted me. I'm open to all CPS cases worldwide. I've heard from Bangladesh, New Delhi, India, a country in the Middle East that I couldn't make out the Arabic language, and then Africa, the continent of Africa. I've had Liberia on the coast at the north end of Africa. Then I've had Rwanda near Lake Victoria, and then further south on the east coast, I have Mozambique, opposite from Madagascar, the island of Madagascar, and of course, South Africa, the western province on the west coast. Going up to Europe, I've had England, Scotland, Wales, part of the United Kingdom, and Denmark and Sweden. Going across the pond to North America, I've had Canada, the provinces in Canada. I've had all 50 states either text me or talk to me, including Washington, D.C. Going south the border, Mexico, and then go further south to South America, Guyana, which is east of Venezuela on the east coast and north of Brazil. Across the Pacific Ocean is the land down under, which is Australia, and I've heard from the Gold Coast and from the state of Victoria, Melbourne area. So this is a worldwide issue about CPS. And so also tell me a little bit about your case. Try to be as complete as you can, like the makeup of your family, their children, their ages and sexes. Also, what were the allegations? And further, how were the children taken? And lastly, how far along on your case? You at the beginning, the middle, or the end? So with all that said, that's all you need to do in the second way of interacting. Now, the third way is to be a guest on my podcast. Now, to be a guest on my podcast, all you have to do is contact our show producer, Grace. She works hard behind the scenes, and I really thank her for what she does. And she tries to make this podcast good. So I encourage you all that to be a guest. That means I can have up to 9 of you. I have a total of 10 spaces, including myself, that you can be guests on my podcast. Now, I'm on the show 7 days a week, twice a day. That's 14 shows. So I'm on in the morning at 10 o'clock Pacific Standard Time and 7 o'clock at night Pacific Standard Time. They're both for 1 hour each. Now, on Sunday, I go to church, so I do my podcast early at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time for 1 hour, and then I go to my church. Then on October 4th, a week from this Friday, it's Sunday Night Lights football with my son. Not Monday night. I don't know what it's called. Friday Night Lights. Friday Night Lights, October 4th. I have a football game. So my show will be coming on at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on October 4th. 4 to 5 would be my show. So make a note of that. And if I change my times, I'll let you know. So to be a guest, you just email Grace at vincentwdavis.com. That's grace@vincentwdavis.com. And you put in the show the morning or the afternoon, Monday through Sunday. And then she will get back to you, give the link to StreamYard, use that link to get on. And if you get bounced off, use that link again. Don't throw away that link. Also, she should explain to you what to do and not do on the podcast, such as no eating or smoking. We don't use children's names, and we don't use the judges or the social workers' names. And then she'll make sure your lighting's adjusted. We prefer a computer, but if you have a phone, it's okay. Just make sure you have a good internet connection and your volume's up there so we can hear you. It's important to have that. And so I look forward to you having you as my guest. The fourth way is to call in, to my phone number. Now that is 626-698-0990. That's my office number. Go directly to my phone. I use Vonage as the internet application for the phone connection. So that's 626-698-0990. So those are 4 ways that you can interact with this podcast. Now at this time, we can go one of many ways. Hopefully I'll get some input from you all, either by a text message or a call in, and or one of my regulars will call in or so forth there. So one of my regulars had just reminded her again that she needs to call in. That is Faye. She's from Richmond, Kentucky, and they've been going through a horrible storm. My condolences go out to anybody having issues or troubles in the wake of Hurricane Helene. I know it came to the coast, up through Florida, through Georgia and Tennessee and the Carolinas. It veered to the east and went over the Carolinas and has provided some really bad flooding. And I hope you're all safe and well. Now, the CPS, what I call CPS, it's the Child Protection System. It's a branch of social services that's mandated by the government to protect our children from the neglect and abuse. Furthermore, it's supposed to help out families in need with food, education, medical, clothing, housing, and work, a job. So they're also supposed to be doing that. At the same thing, if it's necessary to break the family apart because they're in imminent danger, the children are temporarily placed, hopefully, in one of your family members and not in foster care. I'll explain to you about foster care in a little bit. But they should also do what's called family reunification. They should try to get your family together. Now, be very careful because the agency isn't what it's made out to be. They do not follow the government mandate. They're very corrupt, not transparent. They lie, and it's all solely because it's a money-making business. Trillions of dollars are gathered by the child protection system. Now, other states, every state has its own child protection name, but I use CPS, meaning the Child Protection System. In California, it's Child Protection Services, CPS. In Arizona, it's Department of Children's Services. Other states, it's called other names. But when I say CPS, I mean all the systems worldwide and in the United States. And so there are my rules that I have. I have 5 good rules to go by that will help you with your case. Also, I have topics, lots of topics that are open up that will help you. Things like the ICWA Act of 1978, the 388 motion, how to file a complaint, how to get things resolved, because you're going to find fighting CPS very difficult. Very, very, very difficult. So right now, I don't see anybody in my room. They could be there because usually I see them come in. But if anybody's in there, either call me or send me a text message of what you like to talk about. I can talk about my case. Now, I'm a family man. I'm a father, and I have 6 children. And I have the older group of children and younger group of children. The older group are in their 30s and 40s. My younger group are in their teens and early 20s. So I had 3 children that were taken from me. Now, I've been married twice, the first one for 10 years, and then the second one for 32 years. So that's 42 years that I've been trying to be a family man and take care of my 6 children. My first wife, she and I had a child, but I've not seen her since she was 3. And then with my other wife, she brought 2 children into the family that she had out of wedlock, and I've treated them like their own. One was brought to me at age 5, and the other one was brought to me at age 20. And he is now 40. And my other daughter is in her 30s. So with that being said, I have a lot of experience with children. Unfortunately, CPS wasn't kind to me, and they ruined my life. Not only was I going through a hardship in 2010, I'd lost my job through no fault of my own. But I started getting calls from CPS that my wife and I were not taking care of our children. They're ridiculous accusations. I lived in a nice home in a nice neighborhood with private CC&Rs, and I lived about a mile from the beach. But apparently I was unbeknown that a layperson who was my in-laws were filing false complaints. That's the trouble with lay people. Lay people will file false complaints and will try to use CPS to help them. A neighbor will try to retaliate. Well, these were my wife's mother, father, her 3 sisters, and her brother. And they, for 5 years, reported things ridiculous like we weren't feeding our kids. They wanted to take our children. That's why they didn't show up at the wedding 30-some years ago. They didn't show up at the wedding because they never really liked me or my wife, their daughter. They abused her daughter growing up. She was abused by her parents. And so she had a lot of abuse growing up. And anyway, we are a family, and my children were finally tricked by a police to take them in 2015 under false allegations. And it was crazy how they did that. You see, CPS is not a sensible organization. They're worse than the IRS. And they'll go out to get your children because they want to traffic your children. They want to put them in foster care. Foster care is a system where the child protection system recruits parents to be foster care. To be a foster care for CPS, you don't have to have a really strong background. They're not vetted. These families are not vetted, meaning they're not checked out. And they take 1 or 2 classes, and suddenly they're made a foster care parent. The difference between real adoption and children being adopted is that in the real adoption, it's a lot of money. It also takes many years to be vetted and be a parent to get your children. And with the foster care and CPS hands, the children are turned right over to them, and that's where the children are abused. They're abused by the foster parents, and along if they open a case, they're collecting money. And in my case in Orange County, they're getting $20,000 per child. That's $60,000 for 3 children that were taken in 2015. And they weren't in imminent danger, but they took them in and they put them in a foster care shelter. Then they went to my wife's sister and her husband for a period of time. They couldn't take care of them, and so they didn't know the case was going that long. So then they put them in a group home. Then they were broken apart and put into foster care families, single families there. So the foster care system is corrupt, and so is CPS. They will lie. They'll retaliate. I don't have a nice thing to say for them. I have talked to 3 social workers here involved with CPS. All 3 of them were pleasant to talk to, and they spent about 40 minutes of the time talking about how they do CPS, which is far different than the people have told me and far different from my experiences. Now, I have several people in the room now, and I don't know if you'd like me to do Core's Digest, which is a series of questions about CPS, or talk further about my case, or talk about the types of social workers, or my 5 rules, or talk about a topic. I'd like someone to say something in there. My phone number is available to call in at 626-698-0990. Now, as I was talking about my case, they were able to get my children and trick me by having the detective of the police department say that I had to go home and open up my home to them. They were fishing. Anytime they do an investigation, it's fishing. They didn't have any allegations against me that they could prove. So they were fishing. They wanted to go to my home. Now, they've been to my home before, saw they had food, had a clean home, organized home, and so forth. Unfortunately, not only did I lose my job, not only am I now involved with the child protection system, my parents, my dad had died recently, and then my mom was slowly dying. So I had all their belongings in my home. And with that being said, it created kind of a clutter of things, of furniture boxes and furniture, because I was sending off to family and friends. I didn't have funds to put them in storage, and so I was organizing them in the living room. That was one part of the house that was set aside from everything. My house is big enough. My children had their own room, clutter-free and nice. They had an eating, dining area, and they had a family room, and they had a study downstairs. Upstairs was the rooms. They weren't in intimate danger. But because of me having these belongings, they said I was negligent to the children because the boxes could hurt them. I guess they think the boxes can fly with wings and come upstairs and attack the children, or the furniture could walk upstairs and attack the children. Something ridiculous. They always seem to take children that are not in intimate danger. The typical MO is they hear from a layperson, they believe it, you're guilty until you're proven innocent, and then they try to investigate, and that's why they try to take your children. That's why they try to take your children. Now, I have 4 or 5 rules that will help you with your case. I have those. Again, I like if anybody wants to call in and talk about their case, that'd be great. You could call me at 626-698-0990. That would be marvelous. Or you can text me a message. All I ask is for your name, your city or county, and the state where you at, and so forth. And we can talk about your case there. So in 2015, they investigated my home, and because of my father and mother's furniture they've accumulated in 55 years, they said it was not safe for the children to be there. So it's a long process. And why my rules are so important? Well, my rule number 1 is that you must get an attorney. You must get an attorney. And so that is my rule number 1. And you're probably going to say, well, wait a minute. They gave me an attorney. Well, what they gave you is what's called a court-appointed attorney, which is no charge to you because you led them to believe you couldn't afford an attorney, and they gave the same one to your children. With that being said, you're not going to win your case. The court-appointed attorney have a caseload of 30 or more clients. They only know about uh, criminal law. They do not know about dependency law. The area that we're in is called dependency law. It involves juveniles and families. It's called dependency law. And it's very important that you have an attorney with that background. So you may think the court attorney is great, but it's not. Like when you try to meet with them, they won't meet outside the courtroom. You'll meet with them on the first day of your hearing for a couple minutes, and then they go into a room and they will do nothing but railroad your case down. They won't fight for you. You're going to lose your children for sure. And I tried to use a court-appointed attorney, but I found that wasn't going to work. So I had to sell my home that I worked 45 years to get. And I sold my home to use that money to get a retainer for one I feel the best attorney around. His name is Vincent W. Davis, and he's been practicing law for over 35 years. He's been fighting CPS for 35 years in family juvenile dependency court. That's the expert. That's where you need that is. And he is an expert. He has won cases and gotten children back. He's a trial attorney. In fact, he's even sued CPS both in federal court and state court and won millions of dollars. So he's a real deal. He practices law out of Arcadia, but he'll go to Northern California. He has a case now in Northern California. He'll go to San Bernardino, LA, and then, of course, any of the states. He has a case in Oklahoma. So he'll go all over. And what I've done with him is I made an arrangement. You can see right there at the bottom of my screen, there's a banner. And it talks about booking a discounted Zoom consultation with attorney Vincent Davis. Now, he'll talk to you for up to 30 minutes, and I have a special price that he'll charge at $60. So you need to go online to get that special rate. It's https:// CANDLY.com/apps VWD / Pace BOBPACE. And if you go there, you can book a discounted consultation. It's on the Zoom, and use your credit card. It'll be $60 for 30 minutes. It's the best bargain ever because he's the top of his field. You can't ask for a more knowledgeable attorney. He'll tell you how to navigate and operate. You have to understand, fighting CPS is like open heart surgery. If you're going to have an open heart surgery, you're going to make sure that you have a professional doctor that's gone to medical school, has done an internship, has gotten a license, and has a mentor for many years that knows what they're doing. Well, that's what you need with CPS. They're very corrupt, and they will try to bury you alive. They'll try to bury you alive. And so it's so important to get that real attorney. I know that court-appointed attorney is more affordable, but you're going to have to either sell your home or get a credit line or take a loan from a family or friend, but you need to get a retainer. And it doesn't have to be Mr. Davis, but I think you should start with him because for $60, that's a good bargain. You can talk to him about his retainer and him representing you, but he'll help you navigate and tell you how to get your kids back. It's really worth talking to Mr. Davis, and I want to thank him. He's the one that sponsors this podcast. So thank you, Mr. Davis, for all the hard work. He has podcasts himself. He has a question answers on Saturday. That he'll talk. He does talk like that. So this Saturday, the 28th, which is tomorrow at 10 a.m., which is the same time as my show, he'll do his live Zoom meeting. And then you can hear how he defends parents against CPS. He now can make a difference in your case. and he'll tell you some secrets too. And that's one of the that's on my Fight with CPS, one of the posted ads here on this show here. Now, another thing to think about is that if you hire Mr. Davis, he'll know exactly what to do. He'll know exactly what to do. And you'll be able to feel a lot better. A lot better. And so that's my rule number one. Now on my screen, I have another number there, 888-888-6582. That's the law office. If you want to contact any other lawyer in a legal matter, such as criminal, divorce, real estate, workman's comp, any of those other areas there, you can contact them at that number and so forth. And Vincent Davis can be contacted at that number, but the rates are different. The special rates I got to, you have to go to that website. That's 30 minutes for $60. Don't forget that. Now, since I'm talking about rules and no one said anything, I'm going to talk about my rule number 2. Rule number 2 is to be organized with your paperwork. It's very important that you're organized with your paperwork. What I mean by that is that, myself included, I was not organized. I had things written on envelopes, Post-it notes, scraps of paper. I also used my day runner, and I used my phone task manager and my computer. But it was so hard to see anything because the fonts are so small that you should go out and purchase an 8.5 by 11-inch notebook binder, 3-ring binder that's 3 inches thick. And you should get some subject tabs, like get 20 tabs, put them in the notebook. Also put in the notebook a ream of college rule notebook paper, and you can write the regular size so you can read it and so forth. And one of the most important tabs is a timeline. It's the increment, it's the incidents that have happened in your case. They could be with children, they could be social workers, they could be with the school, they could be with the police. You record every incident related to your case. And you start off with the oldest first. You put the date, the time, the location, and the people involved on the first line. The second line, you describe what the incident was. The third line is the outcome. If you don't know the outcome, leave it blank, skip a couple lines. Now you do that for each incident, and you want to skip a couple lines between incidents so you have room to write notes and so forth. Use a highlighter like yellow or pink to highlight something important and that you can find it readily. But I really feel this notebook will save you because your case is not going to be done in 48 hours. It's going to take, well, my case was 3 years. So you got to allow yourself some years there. And it moves slowly. It moves so slowly. They are milking the money, the trillions of dollars they're taking from the government. There is no board of directors. There's nobody in charge of supervising the CPS at the top, which is sad to say. It really is. So organize that notebook. Other subject areas could be your parenting classes, all the certificates that you have. You can hole punch it, stick it in the notebook. Also, you may want to do an index. There's things called programs, domestic violence, anger management, drug rehab, those kind of programs. You can put the certificate completion, and also you can make an index there. So you do that with your court papers. You have a section for your court papers, and you can organize them. And again, use a highlighter for doing so. So there's lots of things you can do with your notebook. It should be something that works good for you. And if you want to know what happened 10 months ago, you'll be able to see it because you scroll down. The problem is, as you get older, it gets harder. All right. Looks like someone's taken the bait and called in. Good evening, and who am I talking to?
Hi, I'm talking to Danny. Good evening.
Yeah, hi, Danny. Welcome. And what city or state are you from, Danny?
From Chicago, Illinois.
Oh, Chicago, Illinois. You're about the third call I've gotten this week from Chicago. Must be a popular city.
Well, it's definitely a corrupt city.
Oh, I know that. Very true. There was a social worker that put on her Facebook in Chicago, and she put an ad from 1848 that said the black children for sale. I can't use what the ad originally said because they used the N word, and that's wrong. The social worker was a black woman, and I have no idea why she put that on Facebook. But she was trying to make a statement that I guess black children are still being sold today. Anyway, what about your case? What's going on with your case?
Okay, so my husband, he gave me your information. My case has been ongoing since 2019. In 2019, I got 3 children taken away from me. Shortly after 2020 and 2021, I had 2 new children that got taken away from me. I have completed every service that this agency has asked me to do, that the court system has asked me to do. I've completed everything successfully 2 years ago. I also ended up having a new child last year, actually in Arcadia. The agency decided to petition the court to give my rights taken away from my oldest 3 children. And
how many children do you have? You said you had a new child besides the 3?
Right.
Okay, so you had 3 children that were taken from you. What was the allegations on?
Child abuse and medical neglect.
Okay, medical neglect and child abuse. Now, were you and your husband? You're both married and the parents of the 3 children, correct?
Okay, so we're not married. So I call him my husband, but he's actually
you're a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. You're a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship.
Right, exactly.
Right. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. And so you guys are taken care of, and you are the biological parents of these 3 children.
So we are the biological parents of the last 3 children.
Okay, I'm confused now. When you said you had 3 children taken away, were they the first 3 children, or they were later children?
They were the first 3 children.
Okay, those first 3 children, he's not the father of them?
Correct. He's not the father.
Okay. Are all those 3 fathers, is the father of those 3 children the same father, or do you have different fathers for each child?
The first 3 children, they all had the same father. He was incarcerated. He just got released last year.
Okay. All right.
He got incarcerated in 2017, got released last year.
And he was the father of those 3 children, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Now, is he involved with your case, with you and your boyfriend?
Yes, he is involved, and honestly, ever since he got out, has been hell.
Okay, so he's gotten out. Is he helping, or is he trying to take possession of those 3 children?
He's in a halfway house, and he's trying his best to get possession.
Okay, so he doesn't like you anymore. You found a new man, I guess. And
yes, correct. You got that right.
Right, I know. Yes. I'm just saying that. So what he's doing, he's trying to make up stories or trying to badmouth you because was he the one that made the allegations?
No, his aunt that worked in the child care center that our 3 oldest children went to back in 2019, she's the one that made the allegation.
Right. So it's a family connection. He has a connection in social services, and they're trying to say that you neglect and you abused your children.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, you say you have other children with your current boyfriend, correct?
Yes.
And how many children do you have with your current boyfriend? So you have a total of 6 children. Now, where are all
Mhm.
these 6 children at?
So the last child that was born last December, she's in our custody. The
Well,
other
if you're
5,
allowed, if you're okay to take care of your last child, why aren't you okay to take care of the other 5 children?
exactly.
I mean, that's the
Yeah,
argument.
honestly,
That's the
great
argument.
question.
If you had an attorney, I mean, do you have an attorney or are you using a court-appointed attorney?
So at first, I have an attorney for the first 2 years, and he got off the case. And so I have this second public defender that I have now.
Yeah, you know about public defenders, don't you?
Yep.
They're not going to really
Definitely.
fight for your case, and their caseload is 30 or more clients, so they don't have time for your case.
Right.
And they won't see you, and they won't help you get your children back. You're wasting your time. I'm not saying not to use them, but you need a real attorney, and I know it costs a lot of money.
It does.
So where you
Yes,
at?
I'm
Where you
trying.
at on your? I mean, how were the children? The first 3. How were those first 3 children taken from you? They come to your house?
Yeah, they came. They got inside of my building. My building is extreme. At that time, my building was extremely secure, but the neighbors upstairs left the door open, and the police and the social worker all came in together.
Now, why did you open the door?
Honestly, I felt like I had a point to prove. I felt like,
Yeah, the problem is, and I tell people that's one of my rule. My rule number 3 is you don't open the door, and especially strangers. They
right,
are strangers. They're going to
right,
do nothing but go fishing, looking for something that can go against you. They're fishing. So
exactly.
my rule number 3 is you don't allow case child protection services or system in your home, and you don't let the police in there. They use police as intimidators. Supposedly they have their combat boots and their gun strapped on, and they look like a tough guy, and they want to impress upon the fact.
Mm-hmm.
That's why social workers use them. They're just intimidators. But you can refuse to open your door. So you open the door, you allow them to come in. Now, did they have a warrant?
No, they didn't have a warrant. They said that they were doing a well-being check at the time.
Oh, that's a cop. Again, you don't have to talk to them if you didn't talk to them at the door. I know you probably won't do that again, but unless there's only 3 ways they get in your home. Either you give them permission to come in your home, or there's imminent danger to the children, like domestic violence is going on. There's arguments going. A children's caught in the crossfire. They're being strangled or slammed against the wall. That's imminent danger. The police and the social worker can come in. The third way is a warrant, and a warrant's got to be a legal document paper. It can't be a copy or a computer screen or a PDF file. It's got to be a wet signature signed by a judge in court on a work day. They don't work on weekends and they don't work on holidays. So the date shows a weekend or a holiday, it's a bogus piece of paper. Also, if there's not a wet signature and there's no hand stamp, the clerk will emboss a hand stamp that raises the signature so no one can't forge it. When your signature after sign is embossed, it's raised up 1/8 of an inch or a 16th of an inch. You can feel it and see it. Also, that warrant's got to be very clear in what it says. It's got to say your name, and if it's your boyfriend, his name, and the children's names, and the allegations, and the address, and the date and time they can do the investigation, and what they can do. Search your house, talk to you, or take to you. You don't have to talk to social workers. Not required by law. It's your constitutional right. People don't know that. I didn't know that in my case. And I tell people right now who are listening that don't let them in, don't answer the door, and don't give them up your children. They have to have a warrant to take your child. So
Exactly.
So you gave them the children because they said they need to take them. What was the imminent danger? that they're in?
So my son earlier that day, oldest son at the time, he to child care with a bruise around his eye, but it was actually because him and his sister ended up getting this little fight the night before over a toy truck.
But what was the intimate danger? I mean, was there domestic violence going on? Was there fighting with the children being strangled? Were the children being slammed against the wall? See, that's what intimate danger is, and I try to help out parents to understand. There's got to be some forceful action for them to take your children. Now, did they offer a chance for your children to be placed in with a family member? Did they offer that?
At first, there was a service plan signed, and they told us that my mom can get them, and then they turned around and they changed their mind. At the time, my private attorney tried to fight against that, but the GAL at the time in court, she said like, no, the grandmother was watching this while the mom was at work,
Right. The problem is they're going to make a case. They're corrupt. They'll tell you one thing and do another. They'll promise you one thing and do another. In fact, I heard a lady last night, Rachel, who was from Chicago, Illinois, and she said that she and her husband did everything they asked her, and they never gave back the child like they promised. They took the children and had them adopted, and it was sad. It was really sad because one of the children was taken, her second child was taken right at birth. So they're notorious for taking it. And the whole reason why they take children is so they can make money off you. They make trillions of dollars a year. Trillions of dollars a year.
And my oldest three children, they are on medications now. They have been, in a psychiatric hospital. My oldest daughter, she is in a residential facility, and they already claim that they'll release her this month, and then they claim next month, but I feel like they're trying to carry it on.
Oh yeah, they're trying to carry it on, and they know that you have a court-appointed attorney, and they say, great, the children have a court-appointed attorney, the boyfriend, girlfriend have a court-appointed attorney, each of you have there's all friends and pals, there's all hold hands, we go to golf together, we lunch and have lunch with the judge is the cahoots. You're in a terrible situation in Chicago, Illinois. I know, quite frankly, the dependency courts there are corrupt. The judges are corrupt. If you don't get a real attorney, and I don't know how you can do so because it does take money to retain them. But, the way I say it is keep trying to do what they ask. Eventually, they'll give your child back. It'll take some time, but never give up. Never give up.
So I have another question for you. See,
sure.
First of all, I want to say I'm a YouTube content creator. And I have almost 4,000 subscribers. I speak, highly on CPS, DCFS cases, and my two youngest children that are in the system by my current boyfriend, we were getting overnight visitations with them. We started overnight visitations last year.
Okay.
That was stripped from us in July because our worker made claims against me that there was child abuse in the overnight visitation. It took 9 months for it to be unfounded. They took 2 months to finally reinstate us our overnight visitations, which was this year in June. So when we got our overnight visitations starting in June with our two youngest children, they ended up taking it away literally recently on this Monday, September 23rd, because the GAL and the foster care agency filed an emergency court hearing to get our overnight visitations taken away all over a video that was live streamed. They set us up, first of all. They set us up on September 22nd to meet up with a police officer. We had no clue what was going on when we were trying to drop our son off.
Okay.
I'm like, what's going on? Because we were having overnight visits from every Friday to Sunday, basically, with our two younger children.
Okay.
So every Sunday morning, we had to drop our daughter off far south side of Chicago. And very shortly after we dropped her off, the agency wanted us to drop our son off right afterwards, very far up north, which takes an hour and some change to get to his parent. And the crazy part about it is his foster parents literally stayed 15 to 20 minutes away from the drop off.
Okay.
Meanwhile, me and my husband, we stayed probably an hour and some change away from the drop off. So we've been trying to contact the agency about letting them know, like, that's too far, can you guys get somewhere that's like closer to us? They kept declining. And so we decided, hey, we're just going to continue to drop them off far up north. All of a sudden, the day of, I want to say September 20th, they decided to change the meetup spot. And they said, effective immediately on September 22nd, you are to drop your son off at the Rosemont police station. Me and my husband were extremely uncomfortable with that. And we were like, no, we're not. We don't want to do that. That's the police station. We didn't, that's not what we want to do. We were asking you guys get somewhere closer to us. So we ended up, making up our minds to just go ahead and do it. That day, when we did it, we expected to meet the foster parents outside of the police station. They called and told us to meet them in the police station. And we pulled up. I live streamed everything just in case something happens. I want everybody to know what's going on.
Okay.
A police officer was standing there. I didn't know what was going on. We didn't know anything, So the foster parent was caught in the midst of the live stream, and so was my son. These people have been stalking my YouTube channel. The only reason why they found out about it is because my oldest son told his foster parents about my YouTube channel out of excitement 2 years ago.
Okay.
His foster parents told, the whole entire agency and DCS on my YouTube channel. So they've been stalking me. They've been watching everything I post, everything I say. And I feel like this is violating my First Amendment rights.
Yeah.
The judge as well, he told me that being that a video was live streamed, he's taken away our overnight, and he's referring us to anger management. And, it's just, everything's just been completely.
Well, you have a right. You have a right to document things, as long as you tell them up front that you're taking videos or you're recording things. You have a right to do so, but you got to let them know.
Yes, that's what I did.
And I just,
that's what I did.
They're going to find. I've had 3 social workers on here, and I challenge any of my social workers that are listening to me tonight, please call in on one of my other shows, because these 3 social workers, one was Carol from Maryland, another one was from Indiana, and the third one, I forgot where that one was, but they all said that they were that they treated families fairly, and they couldn't believe what I was saying. And I said, well, I'm talking about 99% of the people that call me, and it's over 500 people, have said nothing but negative things about the child protection system. It's very corrupt. You're like Alice in Wonderland. You in the garden, you fell in the rabbit hole. You met the Chester cat, and the Chester cat tells you to go to all these rooms, and they go nowhere. They go nowhere. You chase your tail, and they go nowhere. They're very corrupt. And the whole purpose, I tell people, is the money things. There's all these incentives and bonuses they pay their social workers. It's all about money. They are corrupt. And so the more of us that complain to you can complain first to the director, then you can complain to the state, to the civil rights coordinator or the ombudsperson, or you can file at the federal level to the House and Welfare Department, and there's a way you can investigate them. You can also contact your Congress people, your senators, your representatives, your governors, and you can go all the way to the top. If you have to go to the president or the vice president, fine. You need to make waves. You need to get more people known about how corrupt things are, like news stations, love stories like this.
Yes.
And so you need to really get that out.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to cut you off, but I actually had reached out to the news station yesterday, ABC 7 Chicago.
Okay.
And CBS 2 Chicago. I just left a message. I know they might be filled with messages.
You have to call them back. It's with anybody you leave messages, follow up. Eventually you get through to them. The other day, I wanted to talk to a senator, so I called the U.S. Congressman, the U.S. Congress, where they meet at Capitol in Washington, D.C. I got the switchboard operator. I was shocked, a live voice. And I said, well, I want to talk to Senator Schumer of New York. And she said, just a moment. She got me the phone number. She said, is there anybody else you need to talk to? So they are approachable. Whether they do anything is a different story. And so I do try to go to the top of things. I have talked to CEOs and directors and everything else. So they're approachable, but they will try to do anything retaliation. They really did. They do retaliation so bad. They actually, I had one social worker that retaliated against me and my wife because she was caught in a lie on the stand. She perjured herself. She was asked a question, was there any domestic violence with this couple that was trying to adopt her daughter? And she said, no, they're great parents. Well, my attorney, who happened to be Vincent Davis, that I'd hired, I had to sell my house to hire him. And I had worked 45 years to get that house. But anyway, he pulled out his briefcase, a folder with 30 cases of domestic violence. It was so bad, it was physical domestic violence. And so my attorney tore into her and said, is that the kind of place to be safe for this daughter? And she said she was so embarrassed. She left, but she retaliated. She said to us as parents, you're never going to see your daughter. So she convinced a 12-year-old to divorce her parents, her brothers, her cousins, her aunts and uncles, her grandparents, change her name, seal a birth certificate, and be adopted by foster care. She did all that at age 12. She didn't know what she was doing. And so we lost her daughter that way. We lost her daughter because in California, at 12 years of age, they can emancipate from parents.
Shit, that hits very close to home.
I understand.
My oldest daughter, who's
residential,
she's 11.
Older people are taking advantage. When children are in teenage years or a young adult, they have a tendency to listen to strangers. And if they're angry at you for whatever reason or there's problems there, they will do that. So that's what happened. We lost our daughter. And she's 22 now. We're still trying to get in touch with her. She sees her son, her brothers, but that's all she sees.
See, the thing about my daughter is she expresses to them, and I see her caseworker from residential and her therapist and her teacher, they all communicate with me. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
You know, she's saying that she just wants to come home. She doesn't belong here. We don't even understand why they even let her come here because she doesn't have, you know, the behavior like the other children that's been here for years, you know. So
right.
They're thinking about releasing her this year, but all she states is she wants to go home with you. I also have contact with her, you know, via telephone. I'm able to go and see her if I want to go and see her. But all she says is, Mom, I just want to go home. And I've asked her, being that she's going to turn 12, doesn't she have the say-so to come home? They stated, yeah, well, when she turned 12, yeah, she does have, yeah. But, they're making it to where the next court appearance, literally, I just thought about this. Her birthday is November 21st. The next court appearance is November 25th for a permanency hearing. So they already made up their minds to make it to where my rights will be taken away.
Well, don't let them take it. If they do, appeal it. Appeal the decision. Don't give up. You have to keep fighting with this agency. They're very corrupt. They're not your friend. They retaliate. They lie and they lie and they lie.
Yes.
All you have to do is Google, do CPS workers lie? And you'll find all the cases. There's some close to home here in California that are appalling how they lied and how they were suddenly reprimanded by the courts. There's higher courts that can reprimand a social worker.
Yes. Actually, there was a situation here in Illinois, in Springfield, where I don't know if you guys heard about it, but the lady, she took her child to a doctor's visit, and they took her child away because, she's Hispanic. So the child they thought it was a bruise mark, but, her heritage basically is like, marks. I think it's called Mongolian marks or something, but the thing is from spot. Because both of my youngest daughters have Mongolian marks on their behind. So, when they were born, I was afraid that the doctors would assume we bruised them and stuff like that, but it's Mongolian marks.
What is a Mongolian mark? I'm not familiar with that.
It's a birthmark.
Okay, thank you.
They call them Mongolian marks, but it's a birthmark.
Okay.
They took her child away, and she filed a lawsuit. I think the lady name was Michelle Cody. She filed a lawsuit with the lady, and she ended up getting her child back months later, but she was extremely traumatized. Her son was traumatized. He was out of a feeding, he wasn't feeding from a bottle. He was 7 months not feeding from a bottle. He was feeding from a feeding tube. Like, the system messed him up as an infant.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, it's been a lot of things going on here. I'm just at my wit's end with DCFS right now, and I'm trying to find anything I can think of to get help right now. They took our overnights again for a second time. We have an infant child here. This shit is like, I'm sorry, because I apologize, but it's really traumatized, and me and my husband, we have to deal with the trauma every single day while having an infant child in our custody at the same time. So we have to dedicate our time to her while having trauma, while dealing with the system, and to a point where I just want to let the whole entire world know what they've been doing to us. And
Are you still using a blood pressure monitor?
Right
Not needed now.
Hold on. I just hit my phone by mistake and I got this weird thing on there.
Open your phone and select this feature. Just put your finger on the camera.
Oh, good grief. This is ridiculous. Okay, I'm back again. I noticed our clock time right now. It's almost 8 o'clock, and I'm going to have to end our podcast. I want to thank you so much for calling in, and I want you to know you can call in. I'm on twice a day. So, I want you to give me an update on your case. Keep fighting, and thank you so much for calling in and sharing your story. And I want to thank everybody else for joining and all the emojis. And thank you very much for being in my podcast. This is Bob Pace
No problem.
wishing you a successful time. Keep fighting for your case. Don't give up. I'll see you tomorrow morning at 10